I am not wearing pants, just to let you guys know. But
me neither.
All right. I can't move, and I'm pretty much wearing the same exact things, Dan, which is frightening. Next on Rugby Wrap-Up, Matt McCarthy, Steve Lewis, Dan Power, Bryan Ray, and a World Cup winning mystery guest, Ree. Kangaroos versus All Blacks. Barrett to Japan. Global rugby signings and Major League Rugby news. Rugby Wrap-Up brought to you in part by The Pig and Whistle, the world's best rugby pub. The Murphy Kennedy Group, founded with the idea that construction can be done better. And Lean and Limber, stretching your way to a healthier lifestyle. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to Rugby Wrap-Up. Matt McCarthy in New York City. I'm just behind Times Square. Steve Lewis is on the Upper West Side. He's bougie. You got Dan Power. I believe he is in the state of mind where he's in Texas, but I think he's in Denver. And we have Mr. Bryan Ray, not fashioning his Arrows hat because he's mad at the organization, calling in from Nova Scotia. Gentlemen, welcome. Let's get right to it because we don't have a lot of time. We have a mystery guest waiting, and it's a big shot mystery guest. Give me your opinions on some things that are happening around the world. Dan, I know that we talked off camera a little bit about the Kangaroos and the All Blacks.
Yeah, isn't that an interesting one? We've seen a few hybrid games in the past. I think Bath and Wigan played back in the 90s, a half of each game. They're actually talking about a hybrid game, so two of the biggest brands from each code. The All Blacks, obviously, in rugby are huge. Globally, the Kangaroos not as big, but for most people who are unaware of the rugby league world, probably just as dominant as the All Blacks. So desperate times. They're looking for some cash. It was actually interesting to hear some of the power brokers down in Australia for the rugby league circles, Matt. I talked to George Gregan, and they were saying how unfair the All Blacks were to deal with in terms of money split. He goes, welcome to playing the All Blacks. So if it gets over the line, I'm sure everyone will watch it. What it means for the future of both sports, who knows? So it'll be interesting to see what happens next with that.
Stephen, is this the beginning of a new variation, a new code of rugby?
It's a horrendous concept. Something created, thought up by a Nazi geneticist or something. So I'm not a fan. I hope it doesn't happen. It's just mere theatrics. I don't approve.
Well, don't sugarcoat it, Steve. That was beautiful. Bryan, your quick take on this.
Who cares? Why don't we have a Wolfpack versus Arrows match? That would be much more exciting. Come on, man. Kangaroos. Oh, but give me a break. Arrows, Wolfpack. Let's make it happen. Loser leaves town.
All right. So you want the NHL and the MLB to play in your as well as commandeering all the rugby? You want everything up in Toronto?
Well, it's the center of the universe. I don't see why not.
Fair enough. Another topic in the news. Dan Carter scaring the pants off of Beauden Barrett, who actually left the Blues to go play for the Suntory Goliath in place of Matt Giteau. Dan, he's Australian.
The rumor is $3 million for, I think, 2 years, 2 sabbaticals to play for Suntory. It's the window for these guys to make money is pretty small. I've never had a problem with a player, going after money while their career is while they're still relevant in their career. But we'll see.
As Dan alluded to, right, there's a limited window to maximize your income potential, your earnings potential. Japan is the only place on the globe where rugby players are still being paid pre-COVID values, okay? And that's because the budgets are mostly corporate budgets set by companies, and they were set last year. So the rugby budgets in Japan have not yet been affected the way every other part of the world is facing 20 to 25% cuts. So if you're going to go to Japan, this is the time to do it. They may have their issues in a couple of years' time.
So is this money guaranteed when a guy like this agrees to put his John Hancock on the contract? Because we don't know that rugby is going to be played, or if it's played, if it's not, it might be interrupted again.
I mean, I think the contract will have pretty strong clauses on both sides for protection, right? I think he'll want money up front, but I think Suntory will also have a pandemic protection clause, a PPC as we're calling it now in the industry.
Very good.
To protect their investment as well. I mean, no one wants to pay something for nothing, but Beauden Barrett doesn't want to commit to that if he's not going to have some assurances that he's going to get paid as well. So It'll be interesting to see, though, the contract and how the language and terminology is in there for that.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally it's force majeure, right? Act of God, blah, blah, blah. But you're exactly right. Post-pandemic clause is now a thing.
We've got Bryan Ray bringing us up to speed on some MLR news. Any tidbits that caught your eye, Brian?
Well, new coaches in Austin. I don't know where I got that idea, but completely new staff there. They are Sam and Mark Gerard. Interesting, both young coaches, and they played a lot together down in Australia. Some Super Rugby. They also coming up, I believe they came up through Warringah, the Rats down in the Shute Shield. A whole bunch of signings in MLR. Austin re-signed Mason Peterson, Roderick Waters, and of course Vincent Brook. We got Vian Conradi, the Namibian flanker, going to Dallas. Dallas also picking up Chad London from Colorado. A whole heap of Colorado guys seems to be going to Dallas. And the rumors, of course, that Matt Giteau linked to, I believe it's LA, but he's kind of since said, well, maybe that's not the case, which is kind of the same thing that happened with Dan Carter's rumor. So who knows there? But it's starting to heat up. And, of course, with the deadlines for signings coming up, we should hear some more interesting names pretty soon.
Yeah, I saw that the whole thing about Giteau going over, and he said, no, that's not true. He came out. But then at the end of him in the same conversation, he said, but I haven't ruled it out.
Yeah, right. So who knows? We kind of heard the same with Drew Mitchell earlier in the year, right? The rumors came out, Drew's going to New York, and then it was Drew said, no, I don't think I'm going to play anymore. And then, well, now he's got his visa. Now he's headed to New York. So, we'll see. I'm sure we'll get a few more creative names, though, even if it does look like we're losing the beast and Nanu seems to be heading to France.
Steve, any intel on Drew Mitchell coming to New York?
No, don't know a thing. Not commenting on individuals, but just to clarify one of Brian's comments, July 13th is a deadline date for the MLR, but it's actually for re-signing current or existing players or releasing them. So new players that haven't been here previously, they don't have to be signed by July. So yes, there's going to be a lot of news coming up in the next couple of weeks, but it's mostly around existing or current players. And then you will still see a trickle of people coming in thereafter when European contracts expire and what have you. Dan, any rumors that you have heard that we can talk about?
Just excited for slamming Sam Harris to make his way over here with Mark Gerard. I don't think you give him enough credit. Mark Gerard's played over 20 times for the Wallabies. Big Slam and Sam, Super Rugby, played in the NRL as well. So young, 40 and 38 respectively. So it'll be interesting to see how Austin look next year with two young, relatively inexperienced coaches. They're probably going to want a Steve Lewis-esque person in the background just to help them out. So, but excited for the Gilgronis, Matt, always. Actually, I'm going to say now publicly, this will be my last week supporting the Gilgronis until they send me some kit. Otherwise, I'm going to be back on the free July 13th. You heard it here first. I am going to be a free agent booster, #1 fan, if the Gilgronis don't pony up. I want a cowboy hat, a blazer, and some boots. There you go.
I could send you some swag. Would you like some?
I'm in.
All right, so guys, we got to take a quick break because we do have a big deal mystery guest. Easily our biggest deal of mystery guests so far. Not that the other ones were not big deals, but this one is a big deal. But watch this. We'll be right back. If you're in New York City and want to watch some great rugby, have some great food, and some great times, go to the world's best rugby pub, the Pig and Whistle on West 36th Street. And we are back. Matt McCarthy in Midtown Manhattan by Times Square. Steve Lewis on the Upper West Side in his personal library. Dan Power in Gilgroni land, but maybe not for long if he doesn't get some merch. And Mr. Bryan Ray calling in from Nova Scotia, the man that knows everything. Gentlemen, we have our mystery guest calling in right now. Let's get to him. Let me get to the rules first. Each panel member asks a question. Our mystery guest answers it, and we move on. Stephen Lewis, fire away with your first question for our mystery guest.
Are you American or non-American?
I'm non-American.
Okay. Dan Power.
I'm impressed how serious Steve's taking this, writing notes down. Are you actively still playing?
No, I'm not, mate.
Oh, this is great.
I got it.
Yeah, you know
Ray.
who it is.
Brian Ray, go ahead.
If you braved the snows above the border, otherwise known as Canada.
No.
You have not been to Canada. For the record, he has not been to Canada. Brian, since you went last in round one, you can follow up with the first question of round two.
Have you played professionally on another continent?
Yes, correct. Couple of continents, to be honest.
So I'm guessing South African, so apologies for that. What franchise did you play for in South Africa?
The question is, Dan, what franchise I didn't play for?
Oh,
He's like Jesus. He answers a question with a question. Stephen, your giggling, snotty face tells me that you think you know who it is, but
Okay.
you're not allowed to guess who it is. You can ask another question.
Back or forward?
Forward.
He is a man that Dan Power would find attractive. I will say that.
it's a big pool.
Round three. Dan,
Have you been to the USA before?
Yes, correct.
he has indeed been to the USA before, and I've met him to verify that. I know he was here.
Are you currently attached to a Major League Rugby team?
Incorrect.
Round four. Steve, you're up.
Do you like whiskey?
I love whiskey.
That's a little Texas. That's got a little Texas in there right now. Round four, number two would be Brian Ray. Brian, go ahead.
Well, I'm out of ideas. So, what's your favorite color?
Well, Brian, I've played against Canada way back.
So what's your favorite color? Red?
Blue.
Blue. Is there a shade of blue that you have a preference to?
Baby blue.
Baby blue.
After you met Matt McCarthy, did you need to shower? And two, did you play in the World Cup in Japan?
Shower, yes, of course. And yes, I did play in the World Cup.
Final round, and then the guesses will have to be made. By the way, at this point, does anybody think they know who it is? Just raise your hand.
Kind of.
Dan thinks he knows. Steve, I thought out of the gate knew. He looks a little confused. Everybody likes whiskey, by the way, Steve. Everybody.
Aside from South Africa, what other continent did you play professionally in?
UK.
Since we are out of rounds right now, we're going to go around our panel and see if they have a guest to see who our mystery guest is. And we're going to start with the clueless one first, Mr. Brian Ray from Nova Scotia, representing all of Canada. No weight, no pressure here, Brian.
I don't have a white flag, so I'm going to wave this white receipt around it. I don't have a guess.
Let's go to Stephen. Stephen Lewis.
What do you call a deer with no eyes?
No idea.
No idea.
No idea. Dan Power. Dan, I have faith in you.
You shouldn't. Initially, I think I was with Steve Lewis in my thought on who it was, but then there's a couple that have thrown out. I'm going to have a guess. I'll say Francois Lowe.
Francois Lowe is a great guess, and it is incorrect.
Yep. Good looking dude, though.
Brian?
Okay, one question, Dan, or Brian should know this. I played against Canada, out of position, and I was a captain during the World Cup.
Schalk Brits.
Yes, that ding, ding, ding. Let's bring him in, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ask you to start your video, no longer mystery guest.
Oh, sorry.
Fritz is with us. Let's see if we can get him in. Should be on a screen there. There he is.
There he is.
There he is. He's
Hello, gentlemen. Hello, guys.
What a legend.
Good afternoon.
Hey, Andy Quattrin wants to know if you want to swap his. He's got an 8th grade cross-country medal. You swap jerseys. You want to swap medals now.
I would love to. It would be my honor.
What a legend. Why did you agree to this? That's my next question.
Well, I just like Matt. I don't know why, but I love the bloke.
But you did hurt my feelings by saying that you did indeed have to take a shower after we met. I mean, I understand. I understand.
It was all the hugs and kisses, you know. I'm quite an affectionate person. And Matt, you know, I'm quite attracted. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah, well, right back at you, brother. I was shocked Power didn't pick that off.
Well, Francois Lowe's a good-looking guy too, Schalk. You know that. He's a good-looking rooster. And I met him in San Diego, so I wasn't sure if the US connection there was going on. But
so I actually played in New York. We, as Saracens, we had a couple of games in New York against London Irish.
Ah, that's right.
So that was amazing. I mean, that was just an unbelievable experience. I love the US.
Scott, you might be able to answer this question. It's a trivia question. Who was the only American in-stadium PA announcer for a Premiership home game? It happened to be in New Jersey.
Ooh.
I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a hint. You
Yes.
look at – he's on this panel.
Okay, so he's either Dan,
He's the only
Brian,
American in here. There's your other hint.
Oh. Hey, congratulations.
I wanted to scream out, Chris Wiles, every time you guys touched the ball, but they were watching me like a hog.
We had Hayden Smith and Chris Walls on our team, and it was just unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good time. It was a good time. And Wiles, who I have to call Milord, made me swear that I would not scream his name. But he did score the first try.
Yeah, he did.
You know,
He did.
which
And-
is cool.
And with Brian and Matt, you on the panel, yeah, I've played against the USA and against Canada my professional career. So and both of them during the World Cup. So it was unbelievable. Well, I played golf last week with Dwayne Vermeulen, Schalk Brits and Jean de Villiers, and it was quite weird seeing the uncertainty going forward with rugby. I mean, COVID has changed quite a lot of things. A lot of players had to take salary cuts, and the big thing is they want certainty. Players want to play rugby, and they just don't know when it will open up again.
Do you have any view on when it might open up again in South Africa?
New Zealand's already playing, but they said it's 4 weeks of contact, 4 to 5 weeks before they'll open it up again, and they'll start probably on Monday.
How much of the itch do you have right now? Is the itch there, or MLR? You come over here with the beast?
Yeah, I mean, actually, BC is back here. It's for me, it's quite. You've got an unbelievable athletes in the US. I saw guys there that is unbelievable. For me, it's just it's like a ticking time bomb. I mean, I've seen in your sevens side that if you put the right structures in place, you can have an unbelievable team. It's just a question of getting that intellectual capital over there and using it, because you have the athletes. So yeah, it's going to be a scary prospect in the future if you can develop rugby in the US.
But a guy like you coming over here, coming off the experiences that you've had, and you've played all over the place. You've had a great career, and in the front row at hooker, which is arguably one of the most insane positions in sports, and yet you're in one piece. You look great. Why not come over here in maybe like a player coach role and teach guys how to hook, throw in all the nuances that we may or may not have yet in this country, because those are valuable assets.
Yeah, Matt, by probably my own mistake, I studied accountancy, and I never thought I'd be a professional rugby player. And then I played rugby professionally for 1 year, and 1 year turned into almost 15 years. And now I'm back into private equity or corporate finance. So something totally different to what I've done previously. But I never thought I'll have a professional career of that of 15 years. So I will bring my family across to the US to travel. I've never done the West Coast. I really want to do the West Coast, but as a rugby player,
East Coast is much cooler, bro. East Coast. Just
really?
right here to Manhattan. We'll take care of you. Steve and I, we know it. We know the whole.
Not even a contest.
Yeah, fellas. I want to open it up to the panel now. Don't be shy. Steve, you got a question? Dan, Brian, just fire away. You don't have to be called on. Let's keep this somewhat informal. Steven, you're on the screen right now. You got a question? How much it will cost to have him come over to play for Rooney?
We can't afford him. We can't afford him. My question would be somewhat longer term, right? As World Rugby resets everything in terms of planning. How realistic or likely is it, do you think, that South African provincial teams might end up Pro 14 or playing Europe? So playing same time frame and playing North-South rather than playing New Zealand, Australia?
I've always said for South Africans it makes sense to go north, never east or west. It's just from a traveling perspective, the jet lag is horrendous and it just doesn't make sense. We've got the cheetahs now and the spears going north. And for us, it's a lot of times when I travel with my family, it's just easy to get down to South Africa from the UK. I lived in the UK for 10 years. And commercially, it just makes sense. I mean, to have a season where you've got the South African boys against the Northern Hemisphere, from a commercial perspective, it just works. So hopefully, one day that will work. And now with COVID, you can reset everything. I mean, I always said you have to have one global season. It doesn't help you play half of the year in the Southern Hemisphere or half of the year in the Northern Hemisphere. You have to have a combined effort where everyone plays at the same time.
I don't want to know about the World Cup experience. I don't want to know about the final. I want to know about the 48 hours from the full-time whistle after that. So what was those celebrations like in Japan? Who was best on ground for the post-game, for the Mad Monday, for the bender after you guys won? And who was worst on ground? Who bailed out early after winning a World Cup and went home? No names. You can just say what they rhyme with if you want.
So after the World Cup, we sat at the stadium for quite a bit. Had a lot of champagne, got greeted by royalty, and then afterwards we went back to the hotel. And after that, it was just a blur. So we were supposed to we did go to the Sunday night Rugby World Awards. There was still, I think half of the team was still on it. And then we had to fly back to South Africa in 5 different flights.
Oh.
So they couldn't fly in the same flight. It took us about 2 days to get back to South Africa. Absolute chaos, Dan. And it was, I mean,
was the pilot drinking? Is that why it took so long to get back?
Well, we wanted to be the pilots. Luckily, some guys flew direct, some guys flew via Qatar, some guys fly via Dubai. It was just the absolute ball ache to get everyone back in South Africa. But then we went on a 7-day tour on an open bus in South Africa. So now you can imagine for 10 days, your liver is in a shocking state.
Oh, God. So was there a destination, or was the bus just driving around aimlessly?
No, so we went through almost all the cities in South Africa. Right. Showcasing the trophy. But I don't know how much you know about South Africa, but it's, Matt, we've had some pretty bad times, and there's a lot of bad news coming out of South Africa. And to see what the power of sport, rugby, can have in a country that is struggling with a lot of different issues, from crime to poverty to unemployment, it's amazing to see the power that sport can have. And Nelson Mandela said it can cross boundaries a lot better than any politician can ever do. And I saw it with my eyes.
Yeah, it's amazing how history can repeat itself in a positive fashion, and through rugby and through the Springboks. And this time, allegedly without any tinkering with the tea or getting food poisoning onto the All Blacks this time. It wasn't.
Yes, there was no food poisoning this time.
So you kind of got to sign off your career with the honor of playing with the Barbarians. So where would that rank in your kind of career highlights? And do you have any embarrassing stories about Tyler Ardron?
I must say, Brian, the Barbarians is a very special organization. That rugby, for me, it's you have to have the professional element and you have to have the amateur element. That's the beautiful thing about rugby. You've got big guys, small guys, short guys, quick guys, slow guys. And in rugby itself, after the game, you've got the same guys that like a cigar, a guy like a beer, and some guys like a protein shake. And the Barbarians almost take it back to the old school days when you actually socialize with the opposition afterwards. You have a beer or 10 after it. And that's a beautiful thing about the Barbarians is you get together, guys you play against year in and year out, and you actually play against them and you think they're a total muppet or they're an idiot on the pitch. But then you get to meet the guy and he's actually an unbelievable guy. He's just very competitive. And most guys that plays professionally, they want to win. Everybody wants to win. and then you meet the guy, and it's just an unbelievable experience. So for me, I've played for the Barbarians a couple of times, and for me, it's one of the best memories I've ever had. And you don't really train during the week. It's actually just a piss up, and then you pitch up on Saturday.
I got to ask you a couple of questions, rapid fire for you. Toughest player that you had to play against as a hooker?
The guy that's punched me the most in the scrum, even that he played in South Africa, was Bakkies Botha. The dirtiest hooker I played against, Dylan Hartley. And the guy I had the most respect for playing against was it's almost between Kevin Mulamo and John Smith.
Great picks. Who was your favorite teammate professionally?
Professionally, the funniest guy I've ever played with is Jean de Villiers.
Really? How about with Saracens?
Saracens, Richard Barrington. I don't know, lose their prop. Normally the front row or the fatties is always the funniest guys around. We were in the piss up in Ibiza as a team.
Ooh.
And we had a drinking game. He lost the drinking game and he had to go get a taxi. So, I mean, most of the boys, normally props are great fun.
Did you guys pick the tattoo or did he?
No, we actually picked the tattoo.
That begs the question as a journalist, what was that tattoo?
It was actually, luckily enough, we put it on his ass, and it was or bum behind, what do you call it? And then there was actually a Saracen tattoo.
Guys, any last questions for Mr. Brits before we let him go? Stephen?
Great to see you. Good luck with everything going forward in your non-rugby ventures.
Thank you, Stephen. I really appreciate it. And thank you, Matt, for your time. And guys, have a great evening. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. Bye, Dan. Bye.
Cheers. Thanks, buddy.
Not a bad guest, gentlemen. Mr. Brits, engaging, funny. Accent? Dan, what would you rate the accent?
10 out of 10 for the guest. That's probably one of the biggest pulls you've ever done, Matt McCarthy. That guy is an absolute legend. I think I've never met a person who's had something bad to say about Schalk Brits. Probably the ultimate teammate as well. Just a great guy to be around, great player, and just a locker room presence that you just always want in your life. So well done, rugby wrap-up, Matt McCarthy. That's a good one.
I would concur with those sentiments from my Antipodean friend. In fact, I would go 11 out of 10. You excelled yourself. Great job on the guest.
Thank you again. I am really, really cool. Thank you. And Brian.
The background could use some work.
Brian, you want to laud me at all, or you just want to give something else?
Very impressive. I was completely stumped until that give me clue right at the end. So nice work.
And on that note, I'd like to thank my esteemed guests, Mr. Stephen Lewis, Mr. Dan Power, Mr. Brian Ray, and of course, our very special mystery guest, Mr. Scott Brits. I'm Matt McCarthy, calling from just behind Times Square urinals in New York City for Rugby Wrap-Up. Signing off.